Why settle for incremental growth when you can boost your revenue, cut costs, and adopt new technology more quickly? Why navigate the complexities of AI and the complex tech projects or technology projects alone when you can have insights from the forefront runners and the innovation providers such as Glorium Technologies? What the world's leading AI and technology experts are doing right now to transform healthcare and life science organizations and drive unparalleled growth right now is what we're discussing in these podcasts. This podcast is your gateway to the answers, providing a deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence and its power to amplify your revenue, to cut costs and adopt those efficiencies that are critical to deliver patient care, especially around healthcare and life sciences. So my name is Dudley Peacock, and I'm joined by our AI and technology expert, our resident expert, Dmitry Stepanov. And welcome to our podcast, The Revenue Amplifier, AI in Action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Revenue Amplifier. As you can see, today I'm alone. Dmitry is not available. He's out on the road speaking to customers and implementing the AI solutions that we discuss on a weekly basis. Today, I thought it will be an ideal opportunity to run through what the engagement process looks like. What does it look like when you get to meet us and we're going through an AI implementation or at least a business analysis with you? So it normally starts with you reaching out, or we reaching out to you, and we set up a very simple 90-minute meeting. And in this 90-minute session, what we like to do is have all the leadership members and people that are potentially part of the implementation to be all part of this 90-minute workshop, if you like, where we go through and we understand what your business is. We do what we call a top-down and a bottom-up approach. The top-down is understanding your strategy, your organizational structure, your vision, where you want to take your business and your organization. So from a top-down approach, we start understanding the business needs, the business requirements. What are the business cases for improving efficiencies, for increasing profits? We look at that sort of top-down approach. Then in the second part of our discussions, we look at a bottom-up approach. The bottom-up meaning we look at those individual places where there are bottlenecks in the day-to-day job and let's say tasks that have to be done by your various employees. So if we look at AI and automation and where those things really make a massive impact, it's often at the very basic, at the entry level of tasks and workflows that have to be performed. So when a particular action or activity has to take place, there are often one or two or many steps that have to be done, sometimes manually or sometimes between multiple systems. And it often takes an individual to have to log in somewhere, log out, log in somewhere else, extract data, move it across, and maybe input some additional data based on some kind of interaction. You can try and apply this as a use case or just try and find an example in your organization where a bottom-up approach, when you start looking at the various sticking points in the business, what often creates a problem for you. And one of the key principles that we look at is often the times when you have mistakes happening, or let's say there's complaints from patients or customers, or there are errors in the bookkeeping and business processes, or there are let's say there's a drop in revenue. Those are often symptoms of root causes. Those are often symptoms of entry level things that are going wrong at an earlier point and are not picked up early enough, and the result or the unintended consequence could be something else. So when you're looking at a bottom-up approach, we often look at what are the things you think are not happening, or things that are perceived not to be being done correctly. Is we try to unpack and look at what is the original cause of those items. It could actually be an input process. It could be the fact that there's a time delay between a request coming in, and the time delay lets an individual or a system creates a blockage. That the time delay then means that the eventual task that gets passed on to the next step of that process could have been lost somewhere in translation. And just by shortening that, or actually closing the gap on a number of tasks, or gap between multiple systems, you could get a totally integrated workflow that requires no human input, but also now has fewer steps that can go wrong. So the bottom-up approach, top-down approaches are some of the key things that we look at. But in this 90-minute workshop that we speak about, what we do is we literally go through where AI is right now as it comes as a technology. There's a lot of hype around AI, but we'll go through where we think everything is with regard to your specific business. So we'll do a bit of preparation before the time. We'll go through how it applies to you and look at specific use cases you might want to think about. Prior to this meeting, we do provide you with a questionnaire where you'll give us an indication of some of the questions and issues that you might be experiencing. So by the time we have that 90-minute workshop, your leaders, some of your key staff and employees are around the table or on a Zoom or an online meeting. And we have a discussion around 5-10 minutes around where AI is. We have a look at the top down. We look at where you want to be and the vision and the direction of the company. And then we look at a bottom-up approach where we start saying, okay, let's start unpacking some of the key issues that are arising. And from there, we are then able to develop what the next steps would be. Often the next steps could be something as simple as rolling out very simple training program where it's potentially even just a plain business issue, but regarding the technology blockages. Or it could be something more specific. It could be something where we could break down one person's role. And I think the thing that goes wrong a lot of times is that people think that AI implementations and AI integrations into your business is a business-wide or company-wide thing. In fact, it's a lot more like a sniper. It's a lot more focused on specific people or teams within an organization. So when we do an implementation, what we like to do and what we find is got the highest impact and return on investment is to find those sticking points, those blockage areas where we could take a specific person's role or a set of tasks somebody has to do in a particular role and break that down into a workflow. The workflow then gives us the ability to see what are the multiple steps that need to be performed to deliver the output that's required. When we think about that, we look at what we call a deep dive process. So we'll literally sit with those people, those individuals, those teams, and we'll go through a deep dive process. We will understand and unpack each one of the steps that have to be fulfilled in order for a specific outcome to be achieved. And normally where the biggest wins are taking one person or a team and breaking that down into that workflow. Once we understand what that workflow is, we then apply automation and AI to either completely transform that workflow into something that's not only let's say a sideways motion, not only just automating from an improvement point of view, but we also upscale the delivery of that workflow. So now the outcome is not just equal to what you previously had, but has a compounded improvement on what you previously had. Why? Because you may be able to let one person could do only one task at a time. AI can do millions of tasks simultaneously, or it could do very complex tasks very, very quickly. And not only the automation aspect, but that AI included will increase your speed, your ability to scale those different tasks and workflows. But in addition to that, what you now have is a system that's more dependable and can work potentially 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without any involvement from anybody. But the outcome of that particular workflow could always be then predictable, in that the same result is achieved at the end of each workflow. So let's just go through the process. Let's go from the beginning. We get in touch. We agree to get together for 90 minutes. We get you up to speed with where everything is in terms of AI, 5-10 minutes, in terms of where it is specific for you. We do ask you to fill in a questionnaire before we get to see you, so we get an idea about your company and what your critical pain points are. Then we'll go into what the top-down approach, and we go bottom-up approach. And in that 90-minute meeting that we have, if you want, this is not a sales pitch. This is purely just trying to understand where you're at and where you want to be. And we will put forward a proposal, what we think is the best way for you to achieve at least a significant next step. AI in its implementation is an ongoing thing. It's like any kind of continuous improvement program. What we are very wary of is the cost and also the time commitment by people. So we are very, very prudent when it comes to looking for those high impact points that we can address in the proposal. So we'll propose certain areas that we could touch on, maybe 2, 3, or 4 at most. We'll go in and do those deep dives. The deep dives will then provide us with what we can do in terms of improvements. We'll then come to you with a proposal again in terms of how to address those. So there's 2 proposals that happen, one after the 90-minute to roll out the business analysis and deep dives. There is a cost involved there. So it all depends on the scope of the work. But often this what we call the AI business analysis, that process it's paid for, but it does have a very structured approach. So we might first start with a kickoff, where we get the specific team or team members or specific people involved in trying to get alignment in terms of what we're trying to achieve. In addition to that is we have 1 or 2 or 3 training sessions. So it doesn't help we start doing deep dives and nobody understands why, or what are we trying to achieve? What are we looking for? So we'll do training sessions, 1 or 2. It's often 1 or 2, sometimes 3, with the people we're going to be doing deep dives with. We do those deep dives, maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 deep dives, just to keep the scope nice and narrow and focused for high impact projects. And then once we've gone through that, we do a further strategic plan and proposal. And that strategic plan and proposal will then give you the opportunity to then decide which are the most important projects to go for and which are the ones that will give you the highest impact for the lowest cost and the lowest time commitment from your people. Once you've approved 1 or more of those projects, we then support those projects by implementing or installing a fractional AI officer, a fractional chief AI officer, which is essentially an advisor or an AI expert that supports the technical team. So you can imagine there's a leadership person that we put in place, a project leadership strategic advisor that works along at sort of the C-suite leadership level with you. And then at the project level, we bring in different people from different areas that have got unique skills within each one of those. So you can imagine if you've got a sales and marketing problem, that will require people that have got skill sets in automation, integration, AI, and all that are in the marketing or sales tech or martech space. If you think about financials, people who have got ERP, accounting, or financial management processes, those kind of people would be critical to have to understand how all the systems integrate into the accounting and financial systems. Or it could be operational or human resources. It could also be things like customer service. It could also be operational in terms of anything that's sitting in sort of stock or inventory or warehouse management. There could be expiry dates and other things that need to be managed and tracked, and you're just not getting ahead of that. There could be a number of business areas that we could tackle. But each time we need to bring in a different expert for each one of those different projects. Sometimes the experts can work across projects, and then other times we have subject matter experts. But this is an ongoing process. And then quarterly, every 90 days, we give you an update in terms of where your AI engagement or AI implementation is going. So we have every 90 days, we then start looking at what the next project is, what are the next bottlenecks we want to tackle. And the idea there is to get this ongoing flow of continuous improvement. AI is not something that you can just come and plug and play. There's a lot of off-the-shelf product that's being developed. The danger with those types of products is that as quickly as they appear on the market and being sold as a let's call it off-the-shelf product, many of those products may not last for longer than 3 or 6 or 12 months. So if any of you recall, years ago when we had the internet rush, loads of new businesses were being created, hundreds, thousands, even billions of dollars were being invested in companies that no longer exist, that literally started up and then died as quick as they started in the beginning of the internet era. We're going to see the same thing happening in the AI era, where it's a low barrier to entry. You only need to know a little bit of code, and you have to have just a bit of an imagination, find a pain point, develop some kind of app that sits on top of the large language models, as we had explained in previous episodes. And the problem with that is that these large language models are changing, and the go-to-market strategies of the large language models, and these are the big ones, the Anthropic, the Meta large language models, the Google one, which is called Gemini. You've got OpenAI, which is the ChatGPT version, and there are a number of other LLMs for specific use cases. And then you've got this layer on top that's coming with lots of applications. Now, the problem with all these applications and all these use cases is that things are changing so rapidly. We're now looking into an era where there's agents that are now, an agent is like a mini app that can do a particular task, but it can't do all tasks. There seems to be a new movement in 2024 towards having, let's call it a manager, an agent manager, sort of an AI that manages other AIs or other agents to perform an entire task. So you'll instruct the AI manager, the agent, to perform a task, and this AI will then instruct other agents to deliver different outputs. There might be reflection agents which will take an output, read it, double check it, send it back for refinement, etc., until it's happy, and then it will move it on to the next step. And all of that happens in a split second. But you have these multi-agent environments that are starting to be created by companies. Very difficult to take that off the shelf and plug and play, because every business, we believe, is unique in the way that they deal with specific workflows and tasks that have to be done. So no one business is the same. So the way that we approach the AI environment is is to do it on a customized basis, where we look at specific workflows, build out an automation, an AI layer, and it could either be predictive or it could be generative AI, but the output must be a compound increase on what was previously done, not just in terms of saving time or cost, but in terms of output and productivity. So let's quickly run through that again. So we have this initial 90-minute conversation. We discuss where your industry's at, top down, bottom up. We do a bit of a review, and we come up with a proposal. The business analysis proposal, we do a kickoff meeting. We might do 1 or 2 training sessions with the key teams or people that are involved. We do 1, 2, 3, or 4, let's say, deep dives. Out of those deep dives, this is all paid for out of those deep dives, because there's a lot of consulting and a lot of knowledge and time it takes to do those deep dives, especially from our side. Once the deep dives are completed and we've understood how this whole thing can be done and achieved, in other words, how the project can be rolled out, we'll provide you with a second proposal of how we see how we recommend to roll your AI out. And let's call that a 90-day cycle. So every 90-day cycle, there might be 1 or 2 key projects that we want to roll out. So we've got the overall deep dives that were done. We've got the overall sort of alignment and strategic plan. We've got key areas we want to address. We fulfill those projects. And then every 90 days, we do a review. And our goal then is every 90 days, every 6 to 12 months, to start again at the beginning of the process, where we start saying, okay, what are the next set of bottlenecks, the next set of issues that we have to address? So again, the idea here is to have an ongoing, continuous improvement in the business using the power of AI, and it becomes scalable. And the beauty about this process, and I think this is where I'm going to end this podcast for today, is the beauty about this podcast is that you've started. The problem with AI is it's moving so rapidly that every day there's some additional thing that's been done or changes. The concept and the technology behind AI is not changing. AI in its concept form was started in 1950s and has progressed with machine learning and a number of technologies over the years, but it's still programmatic, it's still software, although the outputs might seem brand new and amazing, which they are. But the thing is that this technology has been around a very long time. It's taken a long time for people to start adopting it, because it was very difficult to adopt. Now the ability to adopt AI has increased because computing power has gone up, internet speeds and connectivity has improved. People's skill sets have improved. Your staff, people are more comfortable with technology now than what they may have been 10, 20, 30 years ago. There's so many different reasons why it's important to start this process, because the quicker you start, the quicker you get this internal knowledge built up in your organization. And as this knowledge is being increased through every iteration, through every new little mini project that gets done in your organization, you start building this wealth of knowledge-based, driven, knowledge-based organization that on its own starts to adopt additional tools. So you then have people more comfortable with not only getting custom solutions for themselves, but now being able to decide which are better applications to make their jobs easier, which are better jobs to increase productivity, and which are better jobs to rather let a machine do than a person, and rather take that person and upskill that person into the next level up. There's one thing that AI potentially will not take away, and that's the human creativity side of things and the ability for humans to think the way we do. So again, it's zeros and ones. AI is very much code, but it's very smart code, and it works off the back of a large language model, a large database of information. So we're going to end the podcast there. Thank you very much for listening to this. I'd like to invite you to opt in for one of these 90-minute sessions with us There's no obligation to buy. The 90-minute session is absolutely free. But join us on a 90-minute. Get us to come into your company, either face-to-face or on an online meeting. Get the leadership group together. We'll go through that 90-minute session, provide you with a proposal so you know what the business analysis would cost for you specifically. Again, every business is unique. So let's do that. And then from the time the deep dives have been done in specific bottleneck areas, we can then start doing the project work. And it's a long-term relationship. It's a long-term engagement, and it's transformative, not only for people or for the company, but it's also transformative in the sense that the industry can now better perform and serve their customers, the patients, and all that, and all the stakeholders that are involved. And so that just overall just increases the level of delivery of service for the end user, for the customer. Thank you very much, and hope you have a super week, and we'll see you next week.